Finally time. It's finally time. After 4 years of constant use, this Micah Nelson one-off Bardiche finally needs to be rehafted. So I've used this for probably every melee and a whole bunch of demo fights and everything for probably about the past 3.5, 4 years. And it just now needs to be rehafted. And it didn't even break up here where, axes usually break. I actually got a crack way down here from defense in Mexico. And even then, I was able to wrap some tape around it, and it was still serviceable for the rest of the tournament. But today, we're going to unhaft this and rehaft this. And since we're going to have this off, we'll probably do a new paint job on there. If I've got the paint, I know I've got the tape. So, the thing about hafting axes the way I haft them is, it's kind of a thing to unhaft them when the time comes. So, got a rivet here going straight through. We've got a rivet here going straight into the haft. We've got, I'd say, about a solid 1/2 inch of casting tape up here, under about a solid 1/4 inch of athletic tape as well. And then up top here, we fill that with Gorilla Glue epoxy. So getting this thing taken apart is going to be an endeavor, but the cool thing is, when you do it like this, you only have to do this once every few years. And people are going to say, oh, why did he call that a one-off Micah Nelson Bardiche? Because, to my knowledge, this is still the only one he's ever made in 3mm. So, the rest of his are in 5. This one's in 3, which is why I love it. It's light as shit. You can swing this thing 1,000 times if you even train moderately. You can swing this thing all day long. So, yeah. I'll keep you guys posted step by step. Part 2. As you can see, we got the blade off of the old haft there. You can see how thick that is right there. So we got that off. And then we came down to the other end. We cut our pommel cap off. I was going to drill this out, this old wood, from the old haft. But instead, I had a better idea. I'm going to come down here when the time is right on the new haft. I'm going to cut that off straight. I'm going to backfill a screw into there. Then I'm going to screw that onto there, epoxy it, and tape it. It'll hold really well. It'll be super functional. And with this being about a 1/4 inch wider in a circumference than this, it'll also give me a nice little palm swell, a nice little catch at the bottom there. So that's it. Stage 2. I'm going to say this old haft, it would make either 2 good mace handles, 2 good short axe handles, or if I want to turn it into like a boffer practice weapon, I have a couple practice axe heads. So it's not going in the garbage just yet, but was no longer serviceable for this job. 3. So we've pretty much got the new haft ready. We had to take a little bit of wood off the top there to get everything to fit properly. You want it nice and snug. You'll see I'm going to have to knock it on there later. Now we've got our bucket of water, our rubber gloves, and our 3-inch Scotch cast casting tape. I'm going to open this. Now, this is important to remember. When you open this, once you get this stuff wet, you have to use it. So if you're not going to be hafting a large weapon, like a long axe or a pole arm, when you open this, cut off strips of what you're going to need and soak your strips and use the strips. This way you don't end up wasting half a roll of the casting tape. It's not expensive stuff, but nobody wants to waste stuff. So I'm going to get that all set up, and then I'll show you guys how I'm actually going to haft it. Alright. Do not skip this part, or you will have black casting glue all over your hands for the next day or two. Now I'm going to use the whole roll. So, whole roll goes into the water. Just making sure it gets nice and wet. Leave it in there for about a minute. Now keep in mind, once it's nice and wet, once you take it back out of the water, the clock is ticking. This stuff will dry up on you. If you've ever gotten a cast, you know it doesn't stay wet very long. Alright? So, here we are. We got our haft. Take it, we're going to start it right about under where that top part of the blade is going to slide. We're going to pull it nice and tight. We're just going to keep weaving it and rolling it down just like that. Starts to dry up on you a little bit. Hit it with another little bit of water. No problem. Keep rolling. And as you're rolling, make sure you're squeezing that excess moisture out. You really want it to be tight on there. You don't want to end up with like a loose cast. You don't want this shaking around on the haft of the weapon. Water, that inner core, the inner core of the roll sometimes takes a little while to get as wet as everything else because it's on the inside. But, and the first time you do this, like I said, you might want to cut yourself strips so you can do a strip at a time until you get a little faster and more comfortable with rolling it like this. Now I've gotten to the bottom. I'm going to take it and I'm going to come back down the other way. So you can see exactly how it's going, just like that. You can hear it getting sticky on my glove too, right? It tells you it's already starting to try and dry up. But we're almost done. That's the end of the roll. That's the end of the roll. It's going to be rolled over, so unroll it. And now just take your hands and keep squeezing it onto that haft. Some people use fiber fix. You can use fiber fix. The only thing is, it tends to be a little harder to find and a little more expensive. And I've always been of the belief that if doctors trust this stuff to hold bones in place, it's probably pretty good for our hafts. And like I said, I end up having to replace a haft every few years. So Only stuff I have to replace earlier than that is stuff that I buy that's hafted already, that I didn't haft my way. But once I haft them like this, years. You get years out of it. So, that's where we're at. You can actually hear it dry. So I'm just going to keep squeezing this for a couple minutes. Then I'm going to sit it down and let it dry. While that's happening, I'm going to show you guys how I spruce up my blade. Just tape off that faux edge. This is how I get that faux sharpened look. Tape that off so that doesn't get painted. Also, if you have any tournament stickers you want to preserve, tape them off so they don't get painted. And now I'm just going to paint the whole thing. And while this is drying, I'm going to go back and attach my pommel cap and my pommel to this because it's just about dry. And then once this is dry, we'll reassemble, we'll add our rivets and our athletic tape, and we'll be done. Here it is, casting tape on, and the first layer of athletic tape over it. And we attach the pommel. Like I said, we basically bolted that onto the bottom and then used some construction Gorilla Glue adhesive. That's not going anywhere. And the rest of this is completely reinforced. So now we'll just go ahead and put the blade back on. Just waiting for the blade to finish drying. As soon as it's done drying, put a couple rivets in there, a little more tape. We'll index the handle, and we'll be done. We got our epoxy setting up here in the top to fill that gap. We've got our rivet. We've got our rivet. Gripped up and indexed the handle. The Bardiche is reborn. Have to rehaft it again another few years.